Hey guys, Future Blevins here. This episode's just a little bit more vulgar than we normally do. Nothing too bad, but just a little bit of a heads up. Enjoy the episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Around the Payload. I am your host, the Blevins, and we are joined today, I think for the first time, with a crew full of people who've been on the show before. So welcome, everyone. I'll go through and introduce everyone in just a second, but if you are here for the first time as a listener, first of all, thank you for joining us. We were off last week, but we will be here every week until the end of time. But this is a show that's very much akin to Around the Horn on ESPN. We're going to be going over a lot of awesome topics in the Overwatch League. A lot of stuff happened this week. And I, as the benevolent overlord, am going to be doling out points left and right and taking them away, doing all sorts of stuff. So you are going to hear a sound that sounds kind of like this. Every once in a while, that is going to be me giving out points, so don't worry, your quick match game is not waiting for you to play. But without further ado, let's go through the guest to my upper left, right? I don't know how it works and the way you're looking. My upper left, I think. We've got Mel Arena, who's a podcast co-host for The Cavalry Show, and I'll recap. Welcome back. Thank you for coming.
Hey, be here.
The queen of the centipedes, as she, for some reason, wanted to be called.
Princess.
Princess.
You got upgraded. See, sometimes you just get upgraded. Next, we've got Volmel, Overwatch writer and analyst. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you for having me. Hopefully today will be fun.
Yeah, notably a member of the super crew, as I call them, who had the show almost exactly at an hour. And me going over and reiterating that is not helping this crew get there, but certainly was an amazing feat. Next up, we've got Taco, OverwatchScore.com founder, host of Taco and Mash on eStarz, and certainly Around the Payload participant. Not necessarily the greatest of all time, but a former champion.
Currently participant, but I'm going to be stepping down to be an assistant coach of future Around the Payload contestants. I just wanted to make sure that news got out there.
Yes, we're getting leaks here. And last and certainly not least, we've got Deathblow, host of course, High Noon Podcast and Foul Play, and a former ATP champion in his own right. Welcome, sir.
Champion of champions, actually, just to be clear.
Nope.
The best champion ever in the history of the show.
This is almost a champion.
I don't think I have gone against you, though, Deathblow, so.
Ooh. Self-proclaimed champion of champions versus the queen of centipedes. Who knows who will win? But we'll certainly start it off in round number one.
Round one. Capture the objective.
So, this is the moment that many San Francisco Shock and Overwatch League fans have been waiting for. This is the stage 3 that we've been talking about since before the league even started, when San Francisco Shock, quote-unquote, unlock their two stud players. Sinatra and Super are now eligible to play finally, and this is the week that they can both play. So, Mel, we'll start with you. Are they good now? They haven't been good in the past leading up to this point, and they're now unlocked. How good are they?
I mean, I feel like they put all their eggs in one basket. They were 7 baskets that couldn't play for half the stage. But, I feel like they did that, and then now it's like, okay, what are we going to see from you? Maybe a little bit. But I feel like the best change we're going to see in this stage is Dante on Sombra. I think the Sombra changes are going live, and I feel like we're going to see quite a bit from him on Sombra. I think he's going to show us how it's done. So, yes, I think Super and Sinatra mainly, are going to show us some good things. I think Architect adds a little bit of, finesse to them, but overall, I think Dante that's going to shine this season.
Interesting. So maybe the person who we least expect or would have least expected coming into the season. Valma, what are your thoughts here on the San Francisco Shock?
I definitely think that Dante is going to have a very large factor in their performance overall. But I definitely wouldn't sleep on Architect. I think he fills a major role that they've been lacking. They've been lacking that projectile DPS role. So his Genji, his Pharah, he can play Junkrat at times. So having him come in on top of Super coming in, rejuvenating that main tank role. I definitely see them, if they can incorporate everything well, barring any kind of, player coach issues. They should be able to at least be in the talk of a contending stage 3 playoff spot. So definitely, I think they're going to improve overall, but to what degree, we'll have to see.
Yeah, that's definitely that would definitely be a big jump if they're even in the talk for stage playoffs for stage 3. But Deathblow, what are your thoughts here for you? I know we've talked about this a lot on the flagship show.
Yeah, I'm not sold that they're going to be leaps and bounds better than they were in the past. I think they're going to need some time to really gel together, and I'm looking more at like stage 4 for them than I am stage 3 because of how many different pieces need to be incorporated, how many different roles people are going to be playing. I agree with Volamel very much that I think Architect's going to be a big factor for this team. I think the Moth acquisition that's kind of in the past already was very big because I thought Dak and Nomi were kind of the big weak spots here. So I'm really hoping Super can come in, fill in for them. By the time, this stage gets done, they figure out how they want to use all their DPS players, finally get everything figured out, maybe make a push for something in the larger stage playoff scene that we have here now with 4 teams. But on the overall, I don't expect them to make, a big boost here. And partially because the last weakness and the last thing they need to do is go out there and sign Choi Hyo Bin, whose name I'm sure I butchered. That's kind of been a rumor. They haven't really pulled the trigger on that yet, to my knowledge, and I think that that's kind of the last piece of the puzzle. So when they do that, I'll buy in a lot more than I am right now. But things are looking up for sure. There's definitely no bad signs coming from that particular California.
Yeah, they've got about 24 hours to do that. But Taco, last words here. Is Super going to be able to pull out that notable blood-soaked hammer and lead the San Francisco Shock to a stage playoff bid?
Sure. So the question is, how good are the San Francisco Shock now? And the answer is worse than they were in stage 2. Just straight up. So they've got a lot of new talent for sure. They're at, like, Sriracha's aged in. He needs time. They've got Architect. He's an amazing player. They're about to sign Choi Hyobin. He's fantastic. Super's aged in. Moth just joined the team. This is a team that has a lot going on. First, Brad prefers to have a locked starting 6, and he can no longer do that. So from a coaching and scheme design standpoint, they have to completely shift their mindset. Second, they have to figure out the right balance of how do I start integrating our new talent into this roster without totally disrupting everything else that's going on. And then the third piece is, how do we not disrupt everything else that's going on and then also keep players like Dante and Baby Bay happy enough to not be rioting and showing up in the stands with pitchforks when they're on the bench for too many weeks. So the bottom line is they have more talent, but I agree with Deathblow that that's something we'll see like end of stage 3, stage 4 before they really figure out the right way to use all that talent, before they get their comms down, before they figure out the right way to run their comps with this group of talent that they now have. But in stage 3, we're going to see them take a lot of beatings for the first half, 3/4 of it while they're like, all right, let's see what happens when we throw out Architect and Baby Bay. I don't fuck if I know. Like, yeah, they're only going to find out so much from scrims doing that. And frankly, the way that Overwatch League teams seem to be handling scrims, it seems to be you run your starting lineup out there. They don't know what their starting lineup is. It's going to be a bumpy road for them for a while, but good news for Shock fans is they're probably not going to be all like in stage 4. They'll be competing on the outside looking in for an overall playoff spot, which they very well have the talent to kind of squeak into. And they're going to have a lot of talent locked up for season 2 as well. So the future looks great, but the present looks like it's going to be bumpy.
Yeah, speaking of talent locked up, IDD QD not mentioned by a single person. That's probably talent. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
he's
I don't know that name.
he's playing Battletoads with Numlocked right now. But let's move on.
I love Battletoads.
Battletoads is a great game.
Is that better than Worms?
We're not talking about that right now. Now's not the time or place. Let's move on.
Not as good as Centipede, though.
Ooh, man, you really gotta show up to the pre-show to get all these references. Sorry, podcast people. Moving on, we've got a new fuel, I guess is what you could kind of call it. They are -1 Custa, +1 Unco. A trade with the LA Valiant. Notably, Mickey kind of mentioned on his stream that he didn't really understand the trade and that Custa was kind of leading the team in a lot of ways. So, Valmo, what are your thoughts on this? On these fuel moves? There's also been talks of trying to ship around Seagull and some other players. What's going on with the fuel? What are your thoughts?
I gotta say, I'm in Camp Mickey. I don't know exactly what's going on with this team. They're not hurting for talent. They need that structural integrity. They need that leadership, and I thought that's something that Custa definitely brought to the team. When we do listen into them in their comms, he's leading discussion. He's leading ultimate tracking. I thought that he was actually a great fit for the team, and I thought they were actually going to build around him. It's sad to see him go, and I think that the Dallas Fuel are worse off for it. Unco has seen, he has had his return to kind of prominence, but overall he's been a little middling. So I want to know what other kind of plans they have in the mix. But overall, I think this is just not a great look for the Dallas Fuel right now.
Yeah, but it's surprisingly not even like the third or fourth worst look that they've had this season so far. Deathblow, what do you think? Is this good, bad, or other for the Dallas Fuel?
Well, I'm going to go with other for now because I do think Custa and Unco are similar skill tier players, right? And Kaikai's come out and said that OGE is going to be their shot caller when he does arrive here. He's a little bit known for being a quality shot caller in the past. So I do feel confident that from a vocal standpoint, like they're going to have their leader once they get their player in. What that means for the duration of time where OGE is out is probably not going to be, the best look for the Dallas franchise. But in a similar way, I hate to say this, and I'm sorry to Dallas Fuel fans, but like in a similar way to the Shanghai Dragons, like you can't really like look worse from here, right? Like you're kind of okay, even if it continues to go downhill a little bit. They just have to tick up at some point at the end, right? And then not plummet back down again. Like they can't have their end of stage 1, beginning of stage 2 win streak and then collapse again. Like once they get it back going and get it figured out, they just need to keep some momentum because season 1's over for them. So I think this is a long-term move. I would be tempted to build around a player like Custa too, but at the same time, I get it. They're probably feeling burned by Western players and just want to get Koreans in. And so I don't know. I don't hate it, but I'm also not going to say that this makes them better or anything like that. Like it doesn't do that, but I'm excited to see Harry Hook again. So we got that going for us.
Yeah, it does seem interesting that they're going to want to have their shot caller be someone who's not a native English speaker. But I don't know. Taco, what are your thoughts here? Dallas Fuel, acquisitions, trades, drama, etc.
Sure. To me, this trade is like a tale of two teams that are tire fires and they're like rubbing up against one another and swapping tires. And like, it doesn't really make I think the Valiant probably got the better end of it just because Custa is like maybe the one tire that's not currently like on fire. He's got like a little extinguisher and he's like trying to help out. But both of these teams are a complete mess. Custa's not going to make the difference for the Valiant. Losing him is just a weird fucking call from the Fuel, right? Like Unco, like Valiant wanted to get rid of Unco. He had another like friend in Soon on the team, like. So it's not like the difference in having AKM is going to like make him a better teammate or anything. So I don't really get why they would do it. To me, it like doesn't change them on a talent level. Yeah, maybe they mix in Harry Hook more, but then like why get rid of like the one stable force on your team? Like I guess they were just so bitter from XQC. They're like, anybody tied to Arc 6, get the fuck out. Like I don't know. I don't have another explanation.
Yeah, I think you're right, but you're starting to lose too many points for swearing, so we're gonna move on.
Wait, we lose points for swearing?
Oh, absolutely.
We have a PG rated show here, Tyler. You called yourself the GOAT at the top of it, and you're on 3 F-bombs already on our PG show.
Right.
It's okay. We're just gonna cut your losses here and move on to Mel. And I know you're rocking the Houston Outlaws shirt right now, so maybe you're a little bit happy about the tire fire. But what are your thoughts on this trade and what's going on with the Dallas Fuel?
Okay, let's be honest. It's not like there was anywhere they were going. So, Cuesta was a leader, but what? He led the team to not much, right?
True.
So I think they're looking at Unco as he has synergy with AKM, and AKM was their newest addition. They're like building a new team. As we can see, they keep, building new players and dropping other players. But I just think that Cuesta may have been a better shot caller, right? But Unco's definitely a more skilled Zenyatta, in my opinion. And I think that Cuesta, pushed his ult way too many times on accident. And his fat fingers need to move it onto another team, because that wasn't helping anybody. Like, how many times is nobody on the payload and it's Cuesta like,
yeah, he's never going to be able to live that one down. That's for sure.
I know. I'm just kidding. But in all reality, Unco and AKM, if they have synergy, they can make that backline super solid, and they can really help the tanks not have to make so much space for the rest of the team and really make that team a little bit better. So I'm going to have an opinion that's maybe not the popular one, but I think it was a good trade.
Yeah, I mean, I do definitely think that, luckily with the way the trade deadline works, they're not going to be able to tinker around anymore. So maybe they can actually start to build a little bit of stability on both sides. But speaking of the other side of that deal, let's talk about the LA Valiant. They are now minus an Unco. They're minus a Silk Thread. They're kind of minus a Grim Reality. They're minus an Envy. They're plus a Custa and plus a Bunny.
So it's a new team.
It's a new team. Brand new team. The still LA Valiant. Deathblow. What are your thoughts on the rebirth of the LA Valiant?
Where does one begin on this particular topic? So the one backbone of this team, in my mind, throughout Overwatch League so far, and honestly throughout their good and bad performances before Overwatch League as Immortals, has been the tank line here for this squad. And I cannot wrap my head around just cutting Envy like it's no big deal. Space is a talented player. I don't see him in the same ballpark here. And listen, I don't want to make it sound like Envy is one of the top. I don't put him in my top 3 Diva players or anything like that, but him and Fate together worked so well and had so much synergy with each other that I thought they each made each other better. And I'm very, very worried about what kind of impact this will have on Fate, let alone the team as a whole. So it seems like they're very much so risking downgrading both off tank and main tank as a result of this one roster move. Bringing in Bunny signals to me they might want to move away from Soon, and I don't know if they have ears in that stadium, but he is their most popular player. I don't think the fans would take to that very kindly. And honestly, the rest of them, I can make a case for them to make those moves. But those two in particular really bother me, and I think they're going too far in the wrong direction here. You're in 7th place. You've still got a chance. Make some changes, shake something up, do something different, but maybe don't panic and slam the reset button would be.
Yeah, I mean, I get that Soon is great, and I get that the fans like him, but the argument of your most popular player being a good thing just is not one I can accept, knowing that XQC was probably by the numbers the most popular player for the Dallas Fuel. But that is
Fair.
But
I don't think Soon's been bad either.
Yeah, no, he hasn't been bad, but I don't think I've ever heard him talk
not in the
either.
corner.
He's
I've
like
seen
the
Bunny be
opposite.
bad in
He's like
Overwatch,
the
too.
opposite of XQC. But Taco, what are your thoughts here on this new and rejuvenated?
I don't
I
think
can't
it's
even
that.
say
Like,
that.
I think people are making a like. All right, I think this is a big deal, but I think people are talking about it like they really changed their team that much. Like, yeah, okay, the envy thing is a great point. Like, that is super weird. And like relying, they have space there, but like he hasn't played an Overwatch League yet. So yes, that's a pretty significant change. Unco for Custa is like we've already talked about it. Like nobody really thinks that that's a huge difference in talent or a whole lot for them.
Mhm.
And other than that, they just cut, traded, and converted a bunch of bench players. So like it to me, this screams of we either haven't announced the rest of our moves yet, or all of the rest of the moves we were planning on making fell through. And we were planning on acquiring a bunch of players that just aren't here because there's like Grim gets converted. Okay, they still have to pay his contract. Silkthread gets traded. All right, they don't have to pay his contract. They probably didn't get much of anything for him. Like maybe they save a little bit of money there, but like they're clearly not using that space. They weren't using him as a player, so they're losing somebody's voice from the like locker room, if you will. So to me, they're in an attempt to overcorrect for whatever has been going on behind the scenes there. They've just gotten rid of or freed up a bunch of roster space for future signings that they could desperately use now. Bunny is almost a comical signing to me because he was like barely playing for Seoul, and now he's going to go barely play for the Valiant. Like, sure, he'll probably get worked in a little bit more, but are they really going to bench Soon? Are they really going to run Soon and Bunny all that often? Probably not. I mean, I really don't see it that happening that much. Yes, they could try to find a way to make it happen, but by and large, it's going to be Soon and Agilities or Soon and Kareev. And I mean, frankly, like if anybody was going to get cut or traded or turned into a coach off that team, so they didn't have to bear the like humiliation of being a part of the fringe of that roster, it should have been Agilities. And that poor guy now has to like get like slogged back out there and presumably blamed for all of their problems for another stage. Like,
yeah, it's definitely going to be a tough road for LA Valiant for them. But Mel, what are you thinking here with these changes for them?
I just want to start off with the fact that Bunny, really? Like, I know a team that needs a tracer. Like, we're right here. I mean, come on. So I don't know. I just feel like he's fine, whatever. But I think Kareev took over for Silkthread, and I think that was obviously a much better fit for the team. I feel like I was not a believer, and I think I am now. I think he's proved himself a little bit more. But overall, I think they're kind of, like everybody said, replacing their backups, trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives, and I feel like that's the consistent theme with all the teams that aren't in the top 4. And, you know, that's fine. Go ahead. But the way that people get better is to develop more consistency. And they're not doing that. They're not allowing players to become more of a team. They're like, oh, you're not doing well, toss you out. You're not doing well, toss you out. And all that does is create this tense dynamic that's not allowing them to succeed. And I think that's their biggest barrier. Them and Dallas and, you know, Shock and like everybody else on the less than the top 4. You know, if you see that, like, I know they're trying to get better, but sometimes it takes a minute. You know, you have those rebuilding seasons in football. But, you know, like, it's the same thing. You just have to build a team, and these people have not played together. So that's all I got to say.
I'm sparing you the losing of 2 points for the football remark because I know that you knew you did something wrong. It's okay. You're getting 1 pass. Valmo, final words on LA Valiant and the wild ride that they put us through this trade season.
I do have to echo that. Yeah, they did kind of shed a little bit of weight when it came to you know minimizing the bench players and taking some voices out of the locker room. I do appreciate that. It didn't seem like Grim was going to see much play time. I've heard that he really hasn't seen much scrim time as well. But I do have to say that Bunny, historically has been one of the better tracers in the world. Yes, we haven't seen him very often, but statistically speaking, he has actually played pretty well on Soul. I think there's issues there, but I don't want to get too much off on a tangent. But again, pairing Bunny with Fate, two Korean main tanks and Tracer players, look at Prophet and Gesture. I don't really have to explain too much there. The synergy there is really, really strong, or at least it should be, or it has potential. But there again, Sombra's coming in. Soon has played Sombra in the past in Apex. Hopefully we can see Bunny and Fate paired up with Space, and hopefully soon on Sombra. Maybe they can make something work there. I think they're playing up to some archetypes that have been established right now. So I think it's more on the up and up, less on the downside. So I'm hopeful. I'm not sold, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, like I said before, they're not going to be able to shake up anything for the rest of the season after tomorrow as of this recording. So rosters will be set and locked for the rest of the season, and they're going to have to deal with what they've got. But that does bring us to the end of round number 1. Quick recap of the scores here. Trailing the back after some early technical fouls, we've got Taco with 11 points. We've got Deathblow with 15, Volamil with 16, and Mel leading the pack right now with 17 points. But it's anyone's game. Moving into round number 2. Round 2. Capture the objective. So we talked about the San Francisco Shock roster unlocking. They've got Sinatra. They're picking up Architect. They've got Dante. Man, that's 3 really great DPS players. But wait, there's another one. Okay, I'm not counting IDDQD anymore. He's a Battletoads player now. They've got Baby Bay, who has actually been one of their star players in the beginning of the season. So with these new additions and everything going on, Taco, what's the future for Baby Bay? He hasn't been traded yet.
Yeah, so short term he'll get a reasonable amount of playing time while Sinatra and Architect get up to speed, and then he's gonna swap his name out to Benchy Bench about halfway through stage 2, and he'll get brought in to play Widowmaker, and that's about it. That's really just the reality for him, and unfortunately more so for Dante. Like, Baby Bay gets a ton of attention, but I think Dante is not way better, but a significantly more core player that a team could build around. Baby Bay is a little streaky, as Widowmaker's good, but Dante is like a tracer that another Overwatch team could pencil in as their long-term starter and reasonably build around and expect to compete with anybody. And he's going to be a benchy bench guy too. So it really just, it stinks for those two guys. Like, okay, Dante will get in for like a little bit of tracer while Sinatra gets up to speed, and he'll get brought in as Sombra. Woo. Like, Baby Bay will get to be the flex DPS for a little while until Architect gets there and gets comfortable and gets his comms going, and he gets brought in to play Widow probably. Woo. Like, neither of those guys are going to be happy, right?
Yeah.
What they're doing is like, they got to think, okay, how do I make the most of my stage time so that I'm like a clear pickup for a stage 2 Overwatch season 2 Overwatch League team, because that's their future. Both of them could start, but more so Dante than Baby Bay. But Baby Bay could reasonably start with a bunch of expansion teams. But I think Dante is the kind of player you build around.
I think gigantic red hats is the way to stick out the most while you're on stage. That's just my opinion. Mel, what are you thinking? If you're a new team coming into Overwatch League, are you keeping an eye on Baby Bay? Would you be trading for Baby Bay? What are your thoughts on what he's going to be doing?
I don't know. I mean, I think Linkster schooled Baby Bay quite a few times, so I don't know what I'm saying. But I'm not sure that Baby Bay's dead. I mean,
I don't think he's dead.
Okay.
Too soon.
I mean,
this just said, guys, Baby Bay actually dead.
Okay. Well,
Leaks.
what, Taco just like slowly killed him and it was fine, but I say like he's not dead and it's like, oh, okay. Come on, guys.
I'll give you a point for actually killing Baby Bay. You got it.
No, he's not dead, guys. He's still their best hit scan player as of right now, right? So the thing that worries me is that they've talked a lot about wanting to make these sister teams and main teams, right? So if you're going to have a sister team and a main team, then you've got to start in 6. And that starting 6 needs to flex off to those positions that you need in different games. So somebody is going to take that hit scan role because they're going to need a Genji and a hit scan in a lot of different maps on the same map, right? So somebody else is going to take that. And I don't think Baby Bay's Genji is up to par at all with Architect's Genji. But I think Architect's Widow can somewhat compete with Baby Bay's Widow. And I just think that that's going to be the difference maker, is that they want that starting 6. They want that cohesion. They want that like team play, which I think is the right way to go. And so that's what I think is going to make them a better team. And I think Baby Bay is going to kind of, you know, flutter away. He's not going to die. He's going to flutter to a different team.
Yes,
okay?
Taco killed him, but you rezzed him. We got it. Valmel, is Baby Bay? Is he fit to stay in this league, or is he going to be the third Battletoads player?
I definitely don't think Baby Bay will be joining Numlocked and IDDQD as a competitive Battletoads player. I actually believe that he'll actually see quite a bit of playtime. Looking at the increasing map pool for Widowmakers, we're seeing her run on King's Row and Ilios and Nimbani now with some interesting strats kind of parried in Contenders Korea. I actually do think that they're going to restructure this team into a DPS rotation style, something similar to what LA Valiant tried to pull off, something similar to LA Gladiators. He will see playtime. Yes, he'll only see playtime mostly on Widowmaker maps, but again, his soldier is something that I've talked about for a long time. It's quite good, if not something similar to Defran. So I think that you could build around this team, and he'll definitely be quite good.
Oh man.
Man.
You broke the cardinal rule of ATP. You brought up DeFran. That's minus a point, man. I'm sorry. You gotta learn you gotta learn. It's not nearly as offensive as what shall not be named again. Although literally everyone who's ever listened to the show knows the reference because we bring it up every time. Rest in peace, Thornrain. He's my thumb is still on the losing points button for him, by the way. Deathblow, final words on Baby Bay. What's he gonna do?
I do agree he's likely to just basically fall to a Widowmaker only player. I do agree his soldier's okay. I think it's more than adequate to flip burgers at McDonald's. I definitely agree with Volamel there. It's right on that tier. But at the end of the day, the head coach, I get that they say they want to transition, but I think at the end of the day, like the coach's philosophy is, I want 6 players that are going to stay in. And he might have all these grand plans about, look at all these tools we have. We can use all these guys. It's going to be so great. And then at the end of the day, like they're not going to be in first place in the stage while making all these rotations. And he's going to want to do better than he's doing. Like, I think Brad's a very competitive guy. I don't think he's going to settle for mediocrity. I think he's going to fall back on what he thinks is the best plan and the best strategy for a team and how they should operate at the end of the day. And I think it's going to definitely leave Baby Bay to be kind of a Widowmaker one trick for this team. There's no way as Genji touches Architects, so he's not going to see play on a map where Genji is played. And just all the other kind of off meta heroes that see some play are like right in Architect's wheelhouse. So I just think he's kind of like the perfect player for what they need. And I think that he's going to have to play and have to play a lot. And it's just going to leave too much for Benchy Bay to really compete with, which was the correct way to make that
Benchy Bay.
I'm glad you screwed it up because I wanted to make it and you said it wrong.
I gotta award the point here to Deathblow for Benchy Bay. I like that one a lot. I mean, if it wasn't competitive Battletoads, if that wasn't already going to be the title of the episode, Benchy Bay might have been the title of the episode. But let's move on and talk about the Florida Mayhem. They actually started to look decent at the end of stage 2, and they are getting Say Player and Awesome Guy at some point in the stage. I believe at least one of them is in the States, so presumably playing tomorrow potentially, if not later in the stage. So Mel, how's Mayhem looking for this stage? Are they actually going to live up to this newfound hype, or are they still the same old Mayhem that we've seen since the beginning?
I mean, I'm still a little bit upset about their intros not being as exciting. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Like, that was the highlight of my day. Like, come on, give me something. But I think that all the new players they've gotten will be good for it. They'll be good, but I think they'll come in as backups. I think the top six, the main six, have really stepped it up. They stepped it up against the mid-tier teams. Granted, they couldn't compete with the higher tier teams, but they're getting there. Like, they're, second to last place right now. So competing with those mid-tier teams, they showed some really good stuff. So in my opinion, I think that the top six, or the main six that are right there right now, I think those will be the main six still. I think they'll introduce the others slowly, which I think is the right thing. Just like in other sports, you may have a backup on the bench for a year or so while you're teaching them. And I think that that's just par for the course. You can't come into a team and expect to mesh just because you're a good player. I think, being a good mechanical player and being a good skilled player only takes you so far. You can have all that, but having a team of not as gifted mechanically skilled players is better if they have cohesion.
We've seen that time and time again in this first season of Overwatch for sure. Volamel, what are you thinking about the Florida Mayhem?
Looking at the question, I kind of wavered on answers. I do have to credit them with their playing up to this archetype with the main tank and the tracer synergies. They are bringing over 2 Korean players that fill those roles, so hopefully they come in with some pre-built synergy. But what's interesting to me is the stacked hit scan lineup that this team packs. So you've got Logix, again, one of the best Western hit scan players probably in the world, at least for his time. He had some moments where, little land jitters or some stage jitters, but overall, Saya player coming in, one of the best hit scan DPS players coming out of Korea. Similar to how people would view Baby Bay, I think one of them will potentially be run specifically for Widowmaker maps, while the other person runs kind of a similar Philadelphia style to how they used Carpe and Snillo. So one of them comes in to cover the other one's weakness, so the other one can play Widowmaker. So I'm not sold. I do, again, agree with everybody here that I think it's going to be a slow transition, but I think overall good for the long term, maybe not for the short term.
So maybe we're still seeing a second to last place Florida Mayhem for this stage. Perhaps Deathblood. What are you thinking? Are they going to jump up in the standings this stage?
A little bit, maybe. I mean, they're if not in the standings, at least in quality of play. Listen, I think Awesome Guy's their new main tank. I don't think Swoosh has been good enough. And shout outs to iRemix for giving me the analogy I need to not be sound like I'm beating up on players, because we've seen Swoosh get better. We've seen him, improve through his time in Overwatch League. But if I look at this roster and I watch them play, the main tank role is the one spot where I think that they can hands down make some improvements, and they can get significantly better quick. Similar, not exactly but similar to how the Gladiators did. As far as the DPS players go, I'm very torn here. It's brutal. I love Saya player. I wanted him to be in Overwatch League. He's phenomenal to watch. Nobody is giving us a better argument for having depth on your roster motivates your players more than Logix, because the moment they signed Saya player, Logix has been a completely different human being, and on stage he's been killing it. And I don't know whether or not I honestly can't say whether or not I think Saya player would be better than what we currently are getting from Logix right now. I'm excited to see it though. One thing I will say is we've seen a lot of Tavik on Tracer lately, and I think that really opens the door to allow say a player to come in, and he probably is a better fit for the meta and given the hero pools, if Tavik is able to play Tracer at a top level, which he's shown us late in stage 2. So I'm very interested in how the DPS role shakes up. I'm glad I don't have to make that decision, but gun to my head, if I'm making a decision and leaning one way or another, I think Saya player is probably just a more complete all-around player with a deeper hero pool that can probably do better for this team. I don't know how you fit Zappas in, to be on the record. I don't even know how they plan to do it, but I do think we'll see him a little bit. There's no way we don't see Zappas.
Yeah, he'll play the 4th tank when they allow you to put a 7th player in, for sure. And to answer your question about Logix, it was a Space Jam situation where the Monstars came in and sucked away his talent, and now he got it back. But Taco,
understood. All right.
Yeah, make sure you're taking notes here. Taco, last words on the Florida Mayhem.
Oh, hello. The Florida Mayhem have just through the first 2 stages have been the second worst team in the league, only managing to be better than the lowly Shanghai Dragons, though they have shown slow and steady improvements. That changes pretty dramatically in stage 3. First off, there's basically zero chance that they're not at least just flat out better than the Dallas Fuel and the Los Angeles Valiant. I think if you look at this team, I think when Deathblow brought up the Gladiators, that's an excellent analogy. I don't think that Awesome Guy is quite as good as Fisher, but I think he's a significant upgrade at that position. Mm-hmm. I think that Maniton is actually quite a good diva. I think that he's better than like a Bishu, or at least on par with that level. I think that if you're continuing this comparison, the Florida Mayhem DPS, before you add in their new additions, mm-hmm. is just strictly better than the Gladiators DPS. And now you're adding more players. Mm-hmm. So I see this team, and I think the support line is also excellent. So I see this team actually being able to make a significant improvement in stage 3. I would not be surprised for them to be competing for that like 3rd, 4th spot in the stage playoffs, assuming that they play their best lineup and try to work the new players in, other than Awesome Guy, who just needs to start a tank because they need a good Winston. Like work these other guys in slowly, build up their communication, continue the slow, steady improvement that they showed over the first 2 stages. You're looking at, if the Gladiators could compete for the stage 2 playoffs, I don't see Houston. I hate saying this. I'm a Houston fan, but I don't see them having made the moves to get better. Mm-hmm. I don't look at Arhan and be like, well, that's exactly what Houston needed to get better. I don't see the meta shifting in a way that really, really helps them a ton. Mm-hmm. I don't see their improvements at the end of stage 2 really being more than like them remembering that Jake's really good at Junkrat and things that aren't Tracer. And I don't think sticking with that is going to get them long-term results. Mm-hmm. I don't think Boston has figured out their long-term plan. I think that there's a lot of these mid-table teams that we saw really big flashes from in stage 1 that we saw fall off a bit in stage 2 that we're just kind of expecting will land somewhere in the middle. And I don't think that's a reasonable lock, right? Like, yes, Houston could bounce back. Yes, Boston could bounce back. But, I mean, you add a significant upgrade at main tank to a roster that's already stacked, and you could very well see the Florida Mayhem competing for a top 4 spot in stage 3.
Yeah, it seemed like they, on paper, Florida Mayhem always looked at the very least decent. They weren't able to click, and they've started to click, and now they've made improvements as well. So definitely one of my top teams that I root for, to my own high noon pick'em detriment. On many weeks I picked them way too much, but let's move on. For time's sake, I'm cutting one of the questions here from round number 2, so we're going to bring it to the end of round number 2 and recap the scores really quick. A little bit of a closing of the gap, but still much of the same. Taco in the back with 22 points, Deathblow and Volamel with 24 points, and Mel still leading the pack with a healthy 27 points as we turn the payload around the corner and head into round number 3.
The payload is approaching its destination.
And of course, round number 3 is the buy or sell round. So make sure you are writing your checks and signing them out to the correct people. We talked about the LA Valiant earlier in the I'll just say the acquisitions, the colorful acquisitions and trades that they've made. One that we purposely didn't touch too much on was Grim Reality transitioning from a player to a player coach. So Volamel, we'll start with you. Buy or sell Grim Reality as a former player, now player coach?
I feel like I'm gonna have to sell every day, all day. This is a seller's market. I'm gonna have to invest in a competitive BattleToads strategy guide for my guy Grim Realities, because this is going to be a bit of a gun to head scenario. It's like, no, Winston, hello, would you like to go out in and out? It's like, how about a coach? It's like, okay, we could do that. So, I gotta feel bad for him. I don't know exactly what he's going to bring. He is, however, under some good tutelage. Coach Moon, I know personally, Demon is a fantastic guy, and Gunba is incredibly smart. So I think that he can actually develop as a coach himself. He could actually go on to be quite a decent coach. So, as of right now, I'm selling. But season 2, if a team wants to let him play GM and craft a roster, he might have actually some potential. But right now, sell.
I think based on the amount of time he's actually played, he's probably more likely to play Minecraft. But that's the sad reality of the situation. That is the grim reality of the situation. Got there, boys. Got there. Can't take points away from me. I give them out. Deathblow.
You have to let that one simmer.
You can't take our jokes away from us. Come on now.
That grim reality adjacent jokes, and then right when we finish, you slam that home.
Yep. Well, I wanted to make sure that I ruined everything for everyone. That is my job. But although apparently maybe it's Noah Winston's job. But buy or sell. Man, we are on fire. Buy or sell Grim Reality as now a coach.
Oh, to retire at the age of 18, how sweet it would be. But listen, I'm going to take a different stance on this question so that somebody buys it. I'm going to buy this from the sake of the Los Angeles Valiant organization's viewpoint here. They get to open up a roster spot. They presumably get to pay the man a little less money. I don't know how exactly that works, but I'm assuming they don't have to pay out his player contract and pay him a coach's contract as well. I'm guessing there was some agreement there. So they saved a couple bucks. They took a player that they weren't going to use on the stage. They kept him in the organization, so they still have his brain and they still have his ability to critique their DPS players and do basically what I'm sure he's been doing this entire time, because we've talked to Grim. He didn't strike us as a selfish guy, quite the opposite, actually. So I think it's good for the organization that they get to keep him around. It just seems bad for his career personally, but at the end of the day, I'll focus on the LA Valiant side of things and say that this was a bit of a savvy move on their part. If they're not going to use him, they kept anybody else from using him. They kept his brain in the building to help them. So I'll buy it from the LA view.
Gotcha. Taco, buying or selling this move?
Could not sell this harder. So, when you cut a player, the Overwatch League contracts are structured in such a way that if you cut a player without cause with regard to their behavior, or basically unless you pull an XQC, they're
due
on
cause
the
is outlined by the rules.
Right.
Essentially.
Which, to be fair, you could argue like waking up in the morning, breathing and eating eggs for breakfast is breaking those rules. But but by and large, to cut Grim Reality because they weren't going to play him, they are on the hook for his contract. If they wanted to cut him to make space for a better player, excellent move. You have cut a player you're not going to play, and you have brought in a player that you could hypothetically play. They didn't do the second half of that. So they've basically just broken this kid somehow. But my assumption is that they said, "Kid, we're gonna cut you," and he was like, "Oh, make me a coach." They came to this somewhere along the way when they realized they didn't want him on the roster anymore as a player, and then didn't get around to replacing his spot or any of the other spots they made. So now they've just taken a guy that has a lot of potential that they haven't been able to figure out how to get the most of, and basically just told all of the rest of the players on the team that he's not very good. Anything that was there on the underlying on him being a bench player, they have just undermined any kind of credibility he had by being like, "Oh, you could be an assistant coach, buddy," and pat him on the head. I hope that that's not the case. I hope that he turns out that suddenly, if he stops focusing on playing, he can suddenly give insights that he hasn't been giving to the team the entire time that he's been on that roster since Contenders. They know what they have there. This is a face-saving move, but it's bad for him. He should just grind out as a player, try and get on a Season 2 roster. Now he's going to have to try to do another about face afterwards. I don't see him sticking on the Valiant past the end of this year. This is just a way, a way for the Valiant and him to save face for them wanting to make a player spot on their roster, but already being on the hook for his contract.
Yeah.
It sucks. I want to see him play. He's got an immense amount of talent, but it's a little bit raw. Exactly what everybody's been thinking, and we haven't seen anybody do a good job trying to make that come to reality.
Yeah, it is. It is very weird that you would take your quite possibly the most amount of potential for a player and Squash
he's not a
it, just
player
it
anymore?
just squashed that. But Mel, what are you thinking here? Grim Reality, buy or sell as a coach instead of a player?
I'm gonna sell just because I don't know enough about it, right? So
Mhm.
I think that if I could see more into what the situation was, like I haven't seen Grim Reality play, obviously, because nobody has. But I mean, before Overwatch League, I didn't watch this before Overwatch League, so I haven't seen him play. I don't know what he can bring to the team, but I think that at this point, he's lost kind of that respect level of his peers. So coming in as a coach to his peers that maybe on that team, it's fine, right? Because they know what role he's played. They know that he's been an active part of their strategies or whatnot, if that's the case. And they will respect him. But everybody else kind of looks at it like, okay, well, you haven't really done anything. You haven't played. So who are you to tell me what to do? We got a lot of that criticism with the non-Korean teams who were like, you're not a grandmaster. I don't want you to tell me what to do. Like, get over yourself, dude. Like, somebody who isn't as good at the game can still tell you how to play the game. Just because they don't have the, you know, reflexes to do it doesn't mean they can't tell you what to do. And I think that's a lot of what he's going to face, especially in this millennial reality that we have right now. And I think that it could have been a good move. He could be this really bright person that is just like honing his coaching skills, right? He could just be like an amazing strategic player that just doesn't have the mechanical skills to back it up. And maybe they're sitting there thinking, I just don't have time to hone those mechanical skills, right? And it's not worth it for me.
But he's been there for so long. Wouldn't they have called that out by now? And they're like, yeah, he's on the bench, but boy, this guy's really been helping us in strategy or helping us.
But
like,
maybe he
there.
has.
They kind of alluded to that.
Why
I guess,
wouldn't
a
that
little
have
bit.
been like something that's been called out like very clearly when you've got a guy with that much talent?
Why would you
I feel
shoot
like
a
there's a
weird
lot of
angled
people.
video in the rain at In-N-Out Burger for like I don't know why are they doing anything that they're doing? I have no idea.
I mean, the In-N-Out video is a different division of the company, right? Like they have content creators who push that, and they just bought into it, and they were like, "Oh fuck, what have we done?"
Taco, man,
Taco!
it's not even your turn, man. You're losing points. It's not even your turn. Let's move on. Let's
Taco's
move on
throwing.
before
Can we record him?
Taco's just throwing. He wants to be known as the greatest thrower of all time, but he knows that there's only one way to do that. Thornrain's got something to say about that. Let's move on.
Wait, this isn't over.
We still have more questions, and let's get through them. Man, we've been talking about the LA Valiant being a brand new team, but how about those Shanghai Dragons? Are they going to have any players that are the same tomorrow? Maybe a couple, like one or two, but they are a completely different team than we knew them in the first two stages. So, Deathblow, we'll start with you. Buy or sell Shanghai Dragons picking up a win this stage?
I'll sell that really, really fast. Listen, it's going to take them some time to get these guys, just like all the other teams that are making big wholesale changes. It's going to take them time to get things in order. I do still lean towards they're probably going to get a win in the season, but it's way less confident than I was at the beginning of the season when I got to make the law of large numbers says it's going to happen someday.
Those numbers are much smaller now.
Their best player's gone. Okay, Undead's not on this team anymore. He's been their best player throughout the first two stages. So that's going to hurt them. I think Dia's going to do fine stepping into that role. It's going to be great that they finally have a projectile DPS player on the roster. Ado will be here. Unfortunately, I don't think he's that great. Like I don't necessarily think he was Overwatch League level talent coming into it. Prove me wrong. I'm more than happy to see it. Obvious upgrades at the tank position. Lucio coming back into the meta gave their Lucio mains a lot of hope to maybe be able to do something. But they did bring in a flex support. So they finally have like a cohesive team where people are playing roles they know how to play and have ever played before, for all six across the board. So that'll be great for them. But it's going to take them some time. And listen, at the end, I've been saying this about Pick'em, like stop betting on something that's never happened to happen until it happens once. So like, let's worry about when Shanghai is going to win after they've proven they're physically capable of doing so. Just don't forget their coaching has been a nightmare too throughout this entire So I got to sell it hard.
They've been riddled with almost as much scandal. Actually, arguably even more scandal than the Dallas Fuel.
They're the only ones with baby mama drama, that's for sure.
That is, no Benchy Bay drama. Yeah, that's true that we know of. But Taco, buy or sell Shanghai Dragons getting a win this stage?
So their only chances this week against the Dallas Fuel for the rest of the season, not just this stage, period. They have a chance against Fuel prior to OGE getting there. After that, they're screwed. Every other team got at least as upgraded as they did. And once OGE gets settled in with the Fuel, they're going to be leaps and bounds better. Sorry, Shanghai. You need more players. You're just not you need better coaches. You need more coaches, and you need more players. They're just so far off, right? Like they were already far off from the Fuel, who have been like the tire fire of all tire fires. Like they had 17 main tanks, right? Like everybody on that roster has played main tank at least once in the last 8 weeks, except Coco. I don't even know. I don't know. That team is a absolute disaster. It's difficult for me to stay within your profanity boundaries while I'm talking about how bad the Dallas Fuel are. And they're still a whole tier above Shanghai. So yes, Shanghai's added talent. They will be less embarrassing. But their only hope to win this season, unless there's a mystical transfer window that opens again and they suddenly sign a bunch of amazing people. But by and large, assuming this is their roster for the rest of the season, their only chance of winning is the Dallas Fuel match that is happening right now prior to OGE playing, where they're going to have Mickey at main tank, an off-tank player at main tank, a player who requested a trade at off-tank, a brand new support in at main support for his first week. This is the moment. Shanghai Dragons, if you're watching, this is your moment. You will not get another. Take advantage.
Some people wait a lifetime for a moment like this. Mel, are you buying this or selling Shanghai getting a win this stage?
I buy, and I'm gonna raise the roof again because he made fun. But I buy this totally. I think one, if they don't beat the Dallas Fuel, which should totally be a gift to me in my house, I feel like that would just no. But I think they've added a lot. I think Dia is better on hit scan than he is on tracers. So, I think he was playing the tracer because he was better on that than Undead was. Vice versa, Undead was not as good at tracer as he was on hit scan. So I think Dia, you remember Dia in preseason? Whoa, Widow, come on. I mean, competing with Baby Bay there, I mean, I know it was preseason and it wasn't really that great, but it's still it was impressive. And I think we're going to see a little bit more of that. I think you've got Kaguri coming in, and thank you. I will always root for the girl there. She didn't get in because she was a girl, and it wasn't a publicity stunt. Okay, she got in because she is a skilled player, and she will be the first one to tell you that. She's worked her butt off probably 3 times as hard as anybody else in the league to get to where she is right now because she's a girl. Okay, and I don't think she's the magical solution to the Shanghai Dragons by any means. I think she's got that pressure put on her, which I think is unfair. But I think that she is going to bring this team even more publicity than they have right now, which is quite impressive for being 0-20, right? I mean, they're the most loved. They have the most jerseys bought. Probably a lot of them are memes, but who the hell cares? You're buying my jersey, go ahead, So I do. I think they'll win. I think they will win at least one game.
They all are also the only team that has made custom-made baby booties for. Oh no, that's another story. That's another story as creative. Well. But Valma, last words here. Shanghai Dragons buy or sell a win this stage.
I'm gonna have to soft buy. They are adding some talented players to their roster. I'm really looking to Zufan Jun, aka Sky. He did rename himself to kind of bring this team together and really seal the deal. That being said, I think this map pool is a large focal point for this team, kind of leveling the playing ground with especially Dallas Fuel. I think Taco, you brought up a good point. This is going to be a roster in turmoil. They're lacking structure. Their structure leader isn't even there yet. Blizzard World, have we even seen it? I've never seen it. I've played it maybe 3 times. It's kind of weird. So I have to give it to them. They probably could take it. They could possibly if the San Francisco Shock are having roster issues, trying to incorporate those DPS players, they could take a decent advantage there. But I think it's really lying on this map pool, so I do have to soft buy. I think though they're good for at least one.
Man, a lot of good points, but I can't give you full credit for the soft buy. It's the cowards 3-0 that we talk about for Pickham. Not as good here. Not as good in Around the Payload, but let's move on. We've talked about all these other teams doing all these wacky trades, and one that kind of almost flew under the radar here was Silk Thread going to the Los Angeles Gladiators. Notably, Los Angeles Gladiators have done their damage with Asher, with Hydration, and with Surefour. So already they've got 3 basically rotating in almost equal time DPS players, and then they add another one. So buy or sell here, Taco, the acquisition of Silk Thread here for the LA Gladiators.
Sell. Like, he gets playing time when Dia sneaks backstage prior to their match against the Dragons and, like, breaks Surefour's legs. Like, so he wasn't playing in the Valiant. They're a complete mess. They wanted to get rid of him. The Gladiators picked him up because he's got familiarity with players in that team. But, like, where does he fit in? Like, does he compete with Hydration and Surefour? Like, maybe a little bit. But that's a depth pickup for them. I think it's fine. It's kind of a third person in the flex DPS role for me. I mean, which is a little bit weird. Ideally you want, like, for how the meta is now and has been for a while, you want 2 tracer specialists, 2 flex DPS. But frankly, like, the Gladiators were still in a we just need more bodies situation. They picked up another body. They picked up a guy that they know gets along with players in their team. They picked up his contract through the end of the season, so it's not like they're on the hook to keep him for season 2. So I think for the Gladiators, like, fine. But like, generally sell. Like, they really don't. It doesn't hurt them, but it stops them from, like, just getting cut, I guess. Frankly, I think the Valiant need them a whole lot more.
Yeah.
Like, a hard sell from the Valiant standpoint. But, like, I guess Agilities and Kareev can hold this down while the rest of our roster is, like, who knows? Like,
no, man, it's
hard
Soon and Bunny now, man. You just got to get with the program here.
They're
going to run 2 tracers.
Tracer
We're going back to the old days. They just haven't announced it yet.
The mayhem going on.
Haven't, yeah. The Tucio, Twinston, Trey. Yeah. But Mel, buy or sell Silk Thread on the LA Gladiators?
I mean, I guess I buy for similar reasons to why Taco sold, right? Like, I think it was a good move for them. They need additional players. The more players you have, the more players that are looking at your other players, right? So if you have another player that's on the bench, even if Silk Thread's going to be on the bench, because I don't think he's going to be a starter, but I think that he's going to be on the bench and be able to give some valuable insight from an outsider perspective, and they're not guaranteed to keep him after this season. So if he doesn't do that, then he's just a player that's allowed there to scrim with them and to kind of help them get better. And so I don't think there's any downside to this. I don't think they missed out on picking up another player to have him on their team. And the Gladiators just need as much, like, side as they can get right now. They've kind of shown some peaks here and there, but we're at this point where they need somebody else to come in and tell them if they're doing all right.
Yeah, definitely a fresh set of eyes on a roster is certainly going to help. Volamel, buying or selling Silk Thread here for the LA Gladiators?
Well, I will learn from my mistake, and I will buy, not soft buy, but actual buy. I do think that him coming in is very similar to a Snillo acquisition. He does kind of allow Hydration to play other things. Both of them have incredible hero pools. Not to mention, we have a PTR patch coming out. We have a May. We have a Reaper that's possible coming into Season 2. I do actually think that he's going to last and possibly will be signed for Season 2. That being said, there's going to be a lot of DPS heroes to kind of toy around with and play around with, and having somebody as flexible as Silk Thread and Hydration and Surefour, and Asher's been incredibly improved since his Apex days. I think it's overall just a good pickup. There again, they could possibly off-roll as well. We've seen Hydration go Lucio at times for Ilios, so it's overall it's not a bad pickup.
Yeah, I mean, it is going to let them move things around a little bit more, maybe let some other players play more of their comfort picks and focus in more on them. Deathblow, last words here on Silk Thread for the shields up.
Well, the way it's worded on the question sheet in front of me here is, do I want to buy or sell the Gladiators DPS core with the addition of Silk Thread? And I absolutely want to buy their DPS core. It still contains Asher, it still contains Surefour, and it still contains Hydration. And I think those are a phenomenal group of 3, and I think they've rotated them with more effectiveness than just about any team has managed to rotate their players throughout Overwatch leagues so far.
NYXL.
So I will buy that. I stand by my statement. I want to buy the DPS core, but I don't want them to ever use Silk Thread on it, unfortunately, on this stage. I don't see how he fits in as like a need, but I think he fits in as a depth need for this team. So I definitely don't view it as a downside, but if Deepe is ever considering using the man, he needs to shoulder check himself in the back room and keep himself from making that mistake. I don't think it's the way to go to bring him in and use him, but they had a lack of just people in the locker room, and I think just generally more Overwatch minds on the same page will be good for the organization as a whole. So I'll buy it.
Gotcha. Definitely going to be interesting to see how they rotate that around. But we'll move on to our final question here for the regular round, and we're bringing back the meme question by popular demand. Many people loved when we had these little meme questions. So let's do it. We had actually earlier this morning, or maybe it was yesterday. No, it was earlier this morning. We had Raucus and Jake on the Today Show, one of the morning show. I don't know which one it was, but they were on national television representing Overwatch League, and they were wearing some interesting outfits here. So, Mel, we'll start with you here. Are you buying or selling the salmon sports coat that was rocked by Raucus and the "I'll have your daughter home by 9" button up all the way to the tippy top button up by Jake?
All right, listen, if anybody knows me at all, they know that the top button, come on, I sell that all the way. I also sell the salmon jacket. Like, well, come on, guys. Like, you're going on to represent esports, right? To a community that is very like, oh my gosh, video games make you stupid, right? Like, come on. Like, we are a Western culture that is just starting to get into the esports culture. I'm a very closet gamer, obviously. And it's like, you guys can't, like, go out there and not wear a salmon jacket or a, like, all uptight, like, nerdy, like, little, like, I sell. Come on, get them some new stylists. Like, it's just as bad as the Overwatch League casters.
Yeah, the Jake being dressed by Ned Flanders certainly didn't help the image there. Valmo, are you buying or selling the Sunday best from the boys in green?
So I'm going to play against the grain here because I have a feeling that everybody's gonna sell. So I'll buy. I'll take you all up on this offer. Raucus, he's a handsome young man, and I thought that the white hair and the salmon coat really suited and brought out his eyes and his other assets. Jake, I believe that father Jake, I would trust him with my daughter. God forbid if I ever have one. I think they look nice. I thought they looked presentable. I'm glad they didn't show up in sweatpants and a jersey. So hats off to them. Whoever at the Today Show styled them, I thought they did a fairly decent job. It was bold. But I respect the boldness, and I'll buy bold.
I think they dress themselves, right?
I don't think so.
I doubt it.
The Overwatch people dress them. The LA TV show, you think they dress them?
No, they're dressed by
it's
Overwatch
LA
people.
I think the USA Today people definitely dress them, and I think it's New York for what it's worth. Not that it matters, but
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, I don't know. I just doubt that Jake and Raucus themselves had much input as to what they wore. That's
then
my
it's just
guess.
stereotypical.
Anybody who's
God
seen the
damn it.
entire of the cast of Overwatch League knows that they were dressed by the same person who dressed as everyone for Overwatch League.
Right? That's what I'm saying.
That's a conversation for another episode for sure. Deathblow, buying or selling this thing that happened?
First of all, it takes a man to pull off the color salmon. You 100%, I will buy that coat. I will wear that coat. And Raucus, you should buy one too, because you looked good in it, brother. Wear it every day of your life, except for when you have to wear the jersey on stage. I'm selling that top button, though. Those things, it's like a noose. There's no reason to hang yourself on live TV like that. Whoever told him to button that button should be fired. I thought the shirt was fine, though. I don't think there's anything wrong with looking nice and looking presentable and professional when you are representing the league and esports as a whole. I thought Jake embodied professionalism in the interview. He didn't get a lot of opportunity to talk, but and the target audience isn't one where you can really like flex your Overwatch knowledge or anything like that. So you've just got to be respectful and do your best to explain it. And I thought they did a great job. And yeah, anybody who doesn't like that coat, you're wrong. Changed my mind.
All Jake needed to do was shoot that top button off as Tracer, and, well, it happened as it happened. But Taco, last words here. Buying or selling the outfits of the Houston Outlaws starters on national television?
I'm going to sell the outfits because they were both absolutely terrible. But I will buy the fact that them going on that is hugely impactful for the Overwatch League. What they need... Like the Overwatch League cannot continue at its current fan base. It cannot continue at like the current viewership. It cannot continue at the current amount of people who cover it on the media side. They need to grow, and they don't just need to grow 2x or 3x. They need to grow 10, 20, 100x in the next 2 or 3 years. So getting this kind of exposure is really, really important for a couple reasons. Not just like because exposure is good and yay marketing, but the majority of their fans will get drawn from people who play Overwatch and those people's parents. And getting Overwatch back in the conversation, having parents talking to people who watch the Megyn Kelly show, talking to people about Overwatch, gets the game top of mind, which can get more people playing it. They're losing ground. They're losing players to Fortnite. They're losing players to PUBG and the mobile versions of those games. They're losing players all over the place. They need to figure out how to get more and more people playing Overwatch for a longer and longer time, because that's going to be their potential customer base that is at a reasonable cost of acquisition for them to scale at the rate that they need to over the next 24 or 36 months. And since my score is low enough that there's zero chance that no matter how good my answer is, I'm going to get back in, I'm just going to say Defran, XQC, IDD, QD, Mendo, Defran.
Whoa. You see, you saved yourself there with Mendo, because Mendo is actually the key to saving yourself. So you actually threw at throwing. Man, I threw there.
Throwing.
I threw it through and through. I threw there. But that is going to bring us up to the finals here, and we have made it to the final two here. We're going to have to say goodbye, sadly, to Taco, who tried to throw but then failed at throwing, but threw early enough on that he did throw here at 40 points. We've got Deathblow trailing as well at 42 points. So the two former champions will be sitting the bench here for the finals, as Mel and Volamel both with 44 move into the final question here. And this one, it's a big question, but it's a simple one. And it is, who would you crown as your stage 2 MVP overall for the entire stage? And the almighty coin says, Mel, you are first to go here.
All right. I will go with Arc. I think that Arc is the silent hero. I think we all kind of realized exactly how big of a hero he was when he was sick for 2 weeks. And I just think that he brings so much to that team. He brings so much to Jonak. He brings so much support to the tanks. He's just an all-around great player. He is able to support his entire team and push them to win the game. They struggled very, very much so when he did not play. And in those final games, he was crucial. I think he was part of the reason that they switched their strategy. They did not prepare for Fusion. They prepared for London Spitfire. So they had to switch momentum like halfway through the game and be like, okay, what can we do? And that's huge for a team to be able to do that, to be able to kind of suck up their pride that they just got, trolled by Fusion for a couple of rounds. Like, okay, let's pick it back up. Let's do this and change our whole strategy. We haven't practiced this. Let's do this. And I believe Arc was an integral part of that. And I just think he's a great player. He's a great personality. He's the only one that when I talked to him, he was like, I kind of miss it at home. And I think that's cool.
Yeah.
So I like him.
Definitely seeing a little bit more of the human side. Definitely a good answer there. I like a lot of the points you made. Volamil, your choice for Stage 2 MVP.
So to unpack MVP again, you know, who is the most valuable player? And I think anybody outside of, you know, a few handfuls, you've got Carpe, you've got Sabiolbi, there's many others. But I think somebody who really dictated the pace of the metagame and really showed what a hero that a lot of people weren't necessarily looking towards as being a potential legitimate like aircraft carrier style like carry hero was definitely Jonak. I think he legitimately changed the way that we think about Zenyatta and how we want to position around him. I think that their style, pivoting off of him, pivoting off of Sabiolbi, you know, flexing off of especially Arc, and I love that answer, was really big. But I think you can't go wrong with Jonak. I think he, again, legitimately, I think we'll be talking about him in the next 5 years. Overwatch League Season 5 will have the Jonak Awards for the top damage done by Zenyatta. I put my money on it.
For sure. I don't think Arc's anything without Zenyatta. Right?
Sure.
Man,
Or without Jonak,
you both went straight for my heart so well. Who am I supposed to pick here? Well, man, it's very close because anyone who was going to pick an NYXL support was certainly going to win. Let's not pull any punches here. That was the you both did the job correctly here. But I have to say I've only named one of my fantasy teams after one of those players, and that team's name is Jonak. Wish your girlfriend was hot like me. So Volamil, you got this one. You've won it. You pandered well enough. You got the hard carry just like Jonak did in Stage 2 and Stage 1. So the floor is yours. The W is yours. You can enjoy your crown the next time you're on. But the floor is yours to sell out and do whatever you'd like.
I mean, there's not a lot to sell out. You can follow my Twitter if you decide to read some of my garbage analysis. You know, sometimes I like to think I know what I'm talking about, but there again, sometimes I'm just completely wrong, where I called Fleta the best player in the league and he decided to throw at the end of Stage 2. But other than that, yeah, look me up on YouTube. I decide sometimes to make analysis videos, and I'm hopefully trying to do some more VOD analysis and all that good stuff. So read my stuff, watch my stuff, all that good stuff. Watch this episode because I'm sure this was like some fire stuff. This was pretty hot. This was pretty spicy. So definitely give this.
Definitely a spicy. This was definitely one of the spicier episodes. Oh, and I forgot to play your victory sound.
You've captured the
Most
objective.
rated R episode.
Well
There you go.
done.
Certainly the most rated.
Only
Well,
Taco.
actually, not surprisingly enough, not the most rated R episode.
Oh, really? Huh? Well,
Uber was on here.
Uber
so
was-
Come on.
that's true.
Uber
We gave Uber a pass though. We
Uber
didn't give him
is
I just
a
remember the disclaimer at the beginning of the episode where Blevins was like,
yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. I couldn't edit y'all. No, I'm
Man,
sorry.
from competitive Battletoads to Benchy Bay to the hardest decision I'm gonna have to make is the title of this episode. But that it's definitely not gonna be Benchy Bench. That's gonna bring us to the end of the episode. Thank you everyone for watching. For the record, you guys actually didn't do that bad on time, an hour 16. But I also had to cut one of the questions, so shame on all of you. But that is going to bring us to the end, guys. I'd like to thank all the guests again. Follow everyone on here. I'm going to have links to everyone's Twitter and all that good stuff down in the description below. But for Melarina, for Volamil, for Taco, for Deathblow, I'm the Blevins. Remember, you can check out everything that we do at High Noon Productions over at highnoonpodcast.com, and we will see you guys next week around the payload. Bye-bye!